Hi, I'm Ife Alaba, and this is Being Black in NL. Today, we're going to speak to the founders of Black Lives Matter NL. So how did you and when did you guys get started?
Black Lives Matter in Newfoundland kind of started impromptu through various Facebook messages. It first started where during the George Floyd killing, it was a time where we saw a lot of people rallying, and we decided that this was a time to let's talk about racism here in Newfoundland. A lot of times there's this knowledge, oh, people in Newfoundland are friendly, and people in Newfoundland are really friendly, but this doesn't mean that racism does not exist. We started off with just the rally in mind.
To be present at that rally was really amazing, simply to see so many people come out in the beginning of a pandemic. Everyone was just so interested, and I feel like we were really channeling all of the real issues of systemic oppression that is prevalent in our society.
As Black Lives Matter NL, what is your vision and what is your mission?
A lot of people consider Black Lives Matter Newfoundland and Labrador to be just an activity group against racism, but that's not all that it means, right? Because as the name implies, Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter doesn't just mean stopping racism, because stopping racism doesn't really do much for Black lives that are already suffering from the effects of racism, right? So Black Lives Matter, it means, trying to make Black lives prosper within the current society, right? Trying to do all the activities we can to make sure that there's Black prosperity within Newfoundland and Labrador, as well as Canada.
Although it might be uncomfortable for some people to talk about racism, why is it important to have an open and honest conversation about it?
When you're able to speak about it, it actually clears up a lot of the I want to say ignorance, but I don't want to say ignorance because of the fact that at a point in time, we kind of have to step away from I didn't know, because I think that as society, we need to look at not the intention of the action, but what harm the actual action actually caused. And that's something that I a lot in my anti-racism curriculum.
Our major focus, because a lot of the problems we've encounter with racial talks is the ignorance, right? I'm gonna say ignorance because that's pretty much what it is. You see a lot of well-meaning people, which is the worst, right? Well-meaning people just say really hurtful things without knowing, and the whole time they're trying to do good. So when you actually reprimand them on that, it feels like an attack. While the whole time they're trying to minimize you without knowing that, even if whether they know it or not, I'm not sure. But that's why we're trying to focus on education, because the more we can teach people about racism, the more we can let people know how to relate with Black people.
What would you say to people who do not believe racism exists here in Newfoundland and Labrador, and how would you explain that to them?
From my personal perspective, I would share my story, what has happened to me, and from there try and educate the person and try and educate them on systematic oppression.
Just look at your institutions, look at the leaders in your institutions. Do you see any Black people there? Answers probably no. Why are there more Black people or people of color doing more menial labor jobs, unskilled labor jobs? Just look at that. That's not a personal problem of like those individuals. That's an institutional problem. Institution is working to keep them there. So just look at the reality of the society and see where Black people are located, and see as compared to the white counterparts. And granted, there's majority of white people here, but that shouldn't when you compare percentages, it should show that. It shouldn't show one person being disproportionately or one race being disproportionately disadvantaged than the other. It should just show the same proportions if it's an equal society. But unfortunately, it's not, and therefore, the numbers will show you that.
How do you combat racism as people? Like, what steps can we take?
There's racism on the large scale that affects us every day in terms of, we call it systemic oppression. But we also have racism that affects us day to day, and it affects everyone who is Black, and it affects us in different ways. It could come about in terms of like, yeah, discrimination, like maybe if your name wasn't so ethnic, stuff like that, those little microaggressions. I think that a way to combat that to the average person in society is to, like I said before, try to have these conversations, try to do some thinking within yourself, take up the onus on yourself to like research, to really understand, and then have this conversation, figure out why this is wrong, or like what is really, like, try to really take ourselves out of that exceptionalism thing where we feel like, if this doesn't really affect us, so it doesn't really matter. It does.
When we're in key decision spaces, key spaces that we know that our key decisions are being made, it's always important to look around, look where you are and say who's not being represented in this decision, who should be the center of the conversation. A lot of times people aren't put at the right center of the conversation. So it's always important to look around, who is the ones making the decisions here as well. And also is one thing Brian mentioned earlier is that what we see a lot of time is when we analyze systemic oppression is that we see a lot of Black people, a lot of people of color do the menial work and not being in maybe like being an executive of a company as well.
I think we should attack this from a more philosophical perspective, right? When we look at how racism came to be, racism is not an art, it's not a natural thing, right? Racism was deliberately created to, keep Black slaves, in USA or whatever. So it wasn't something that naturally happened, because judging people on the color of their skin is the most ridiculous thing ever. It had to be made. There was a lot of propaganda done. If you look at like the TV shows or the newspaper from back then, or even the scholarly articles, it was all propaganda made to elicit, to create racism. However, what we've done has just been to pull out the knife, to use an analogy. Like we just stabbed someone and we pulled out the knife and we're like, go about your day, right? So that's not how you go about healing. You have to make deliberate actions to counter the actions you've done before, right? Let's say someone dumped oil in the dam or in the water, and everyone has to swim in that. That's pollution, right? Because that's what racism does in our society. It pollutes it. You can't just be like, stop dumping oil. The one already in it is a problem. So we have to consciously try to remove that, which is why groups like Black Lives Matter exist, is because there needs to be a conscious effort, a conscious action towards eliminating racism. One of the things we're trying to push is to create a curriculum in the schools here, right? So there's an actual anti-racism teaching in school, the same way there was back then. Like the ideologies that we've created and we've built on as a society that has led to this has to be undone. And that's how we need to combat racism. So yes, we need to tell people to, personally stop doing microaggressions, like my colleague has said. And we need to create, affirmative action, like Precious has mentioned, affirmative action whereby we put people who we know deserve to be in a management position. Because a lot of the people that come here, let's look at like immigrants or international students, or they all are very qualified to get this position, but they just don't have the access. So there's no way people will be like, sending your resumes and equal competition, they don't care about race. That's a problem, because I don't think it's quite equal if my name causes a problem. If you already have a predisposed thinking about me, then it's not equal. You already judged before you even saw my application. And even if you don't want to judge, you already are in the society. You're already in the oil water. So you can't do anything about it except try to make conscious effort towards taking out that oil. So a conscious effort has to be made. We need to start moving in direction towards eliminating racism with actual activity rather than just, token efforts.
That's it from me, your host, Ife Alaba, and thank you so much for watching another episode of Being Black in NL. Stay tuned for more.